Okay, guys, so I learned something recently that literally blew my mind. And of course, me being me, I was like, I need to tell TikTok about this because it has so many ramifications, okay? So just hear me out. So, as some of you know, I have been very interested in insulin resistance, and I had spoken about it earlier in the year that I was going to have my practice focus on that because I noticed that insulin resistance was the root cause of so many different things that I was seeing in my aesthetic practice. So, I went down this rabbit hole, and so here's the story. So, did you know that when you're growing as an adult, right, from like baby all the way to adulthood, your fat cells are going to multiply? Okay, so from baby all the way to a certain point, and that point is when you become a full grown mature person, so right at puberty. So for women, that's usually around 16 when your fat cells stop multiplying, and for men it can go all the way to like 22. Okay, so once you've reached maturity, your fat cells, and this is for 85% of people, they stop multiplying. Okay, and so when you then, let's say you eat food or you're eating excessive amounts of food, carbohydrates, things like that, for those 85% of the people whose fat cells have stopped multiplying, they start to get bigger. So they hypertrophy, and that's how they gain weight. Okay. And then the other 15%, if they continue to eat a caloric excess, then they're gonna keep getting bigger. So that's like the people who you see in this like my 600-pound life. Like they don't have the capability to stop producing more fat cells. So as long as they keep eating more food, they're gonna produce more fat cells. Okay. So here's the thing that was really interesting to me. A lot of people, especially in my industry, they get things like liposuction, or they'll get like cryo lipolysis with, like, I won't say the company, but cryo lipolysis. Okay, and so in that case, you're freezing the fat, or if you're doing liposuction, you're removing the fat from your body, right? And usually the fat that people remove is not the deadly fat. So you have visceral fat is the fat that's in your organs. That's the one that we really need to focus on removing. The one that's outside is not really dangerous, but people really focus, well, it's not as bad as the one that's inside. But because it's not aesthetically pleasing, people will do things such as liposuction or cryolipolysis to kill off or remove the fat, right? And so if you're in that category of people, that 85% of people whose fat cells are set at 16, and you remove a certain amount of fat cells, what's going to happen is whatever is left over is going to have to do the work for the ones that you removed. And it's going to increase your chances of those fat cells becoming insulin resistant, right? And so if you're not, if you don't have a good healthy diet, right? Like you're not doing the things to make sure that your fat cells don't get bigger, then those other cells are going to become hypertrophy. So you're gonna gain the weight. You may not gain it where you removed it, but you're gonna gain weight, right? Your fat cells are gonna become insulin resistant, and you're gonna have all the different things. So in a way, if you are not using, if you don't have a healthy diet, if you do cryolipolysis or if you do liposuction, you're actually increasing your chances of developing insulin resistance in your fat cells, and that leads to so many other different complications. So I found that really, really interesting. But it's also interesting because as a mother, I have two kids. I have to be very careful about what I give my kids to eat up until the time they hit puberty, because that, like, the number of fat cells that they're gonna have is going to be determined by how much energy or how much food they're eating. So you want to make sure that, like, I'm going to make sure that my kids are eating as much healthy foods as possible, so that, yes, they're going to have fat cells, but I don't want them to have too many fat cells to then have to have a set amount, right? So this is where childhood obesity comes in, where like right now I'm seeing so much in terms of like insulin resistance in kids, teenagers, tweens. And so like there's a limited amount of time to like try to reverse the damage. If it's in like a 12-year-old, you only have like 4 years to try to like reverse that damage, because once they hit 16, that's it. Like that body, the number of fat cells that they have is set. And then if they like start, or if they start eating unhealthy, or if they continue eating unhealthy, then those fat cells are going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and that's going to lead to not only weight gain, but it's going to lead to insulin resistance. Anyway, it was just fascinating to me because it applies to aesthetics, it applies to, well, what I'm researching. But yeah, I don't know if you find this interesting. I find this so interesting because I'm just like, ooh, fat cells get insulin resistance. I mean, there's just a whole different, yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to share.